In this video, we are going to see 6 mistakes that students do when they come to Australia. Some of these mistakes can financially ruin you. So let's get straight into this video. Mistake number 1 is working more than 20 hours a week. Depending on your visa, you might be allowed to work 20 hours or 24 hours a week. Some students work more than the legally allowed hours. This might be due to their financial situation. This is a very big mistake because this breaks one of the most important conditions of your visa, which is not working more than the 20 or the 24 hours that you're allowed. If immigration finds that you are working more than the allowed hours, they will cancel your visa and send you back home. Now, some students might decide to work more than the allowed hours for whatever reason. Remember, you're in Australia for studying, not for working and paying off a loan or paying your school fees or living a lavish lifestyle. So don't do this mistake and get deported. Mistake number 2 that a lot of students do when they move to Australia is trying to have a flashy lifestyle. Thanks to the Indian movies which portray that students who move overseas are living a flashy lifestyle with fast cars and women and partying all weekend, it makes students who move to Australia think that that is the normal lifestyle over here. But it is not. Australia is expensive. And since banks love students and know that they will be spending a lot of money on unnecessary expenses, which they justify that it's important, they give them credit card with very high limits, sometimes even 30, 40,000. This in turn makes the students think that they need the expensive laptops or the watches or branded clothing just to fit in. Don't fall into this trap. Learn how to budget and save your money so that you can actually have a good experience while you're living in Australia instead of ending up with a very high credit card debt. Mistake number 3 that a lot of students do is to buy a car. Very often students justify that they need a car to do part-time job or to be able to commute. This is totally unnecessary. Most big cities in Australia have very good public transport system. Yes, it might take a bit longer than driving, but you don't have to pay a lot of expense that comes along with the cars, like insurance, maintenance, registration, and your fuel. Instead, buying a monthly pass will be a cheaper alternative. And if you decide to buy a car, make sure you don't fall into another trap, which is buying a car on finance, especially from the car sellers. Very often they have a very high interest on their finance, usually around 20 or 24%, which means basically in 5 years of repayment, you're paying double the car's price or sometimes even more. And as we all know, cars depreciate in value with years, so it doesn't make sense to be buying a car on finance. If you really want to buy a car, make sure that you buy it by saving the money. And that brings us to mistake number 4, which is speeding. A lot of international students who come to Australia end up speeding at one point or another. The problem is like when students think that they are part of the cast of the Fast and Furious and decide to drive in the inner suburb as if it's a racetrack. Almost every year there is an international student who end up in a car crash, killing someone in Australia. Indian students became a very hot topic in 2008 when Puneet, an Indian student, was speeding in a suburban area, had a hit and run which ended up being a fatal one. And while on bail, he used his friend's passport and flew back to India. They're still trying to bring him back over here, and it's always a hot topic when any students have any kind of a fatal crash. I'm not saying that Indian students are the only ones who speed. Not long ago, there was a South Korean student who had a fatal hit and run. And people start talking about how the influx of the students are affecting. Let's be honest. As soon as you get a high power car and you see a 4-lane road where people are following the rules and there's a lot of space, everyone wants to speed. But don't do that. Don't speed. Mistake number 5 is not attending the class. Okay, I get it. You've just moved to Australia. You haven't got your parents on your back telling you every day what to do or to go to the university. So it's all up to you to make sure that you're attending the class. And very often, especially if you're working late nights, and very often, depending on the kind of lecture that you have, students might decide not to attend the class and just get the notes from their friends. At one point, I have done the same thing too. But where the biggest problem was, it's not just about you not attending the lecture, but the professor is actually noticing that there's a whole bunch of people not turning up. There was this one particular subject where nearly two-thirds of the class never turned up. It was an easy class, and that was one of the reasons why people never turned up. The professor noticed that a lot of students were not attending, and at the end of the semester, guess what had happened? Nearly two-thirds of the class failed for one reason or another. And when we actually went to complain about it, there wasn't anything that we could do. So unfortunately, we had to re-enroll in that subject and attend the class for one more semester, paying thousands of dollars just for a silly mistake that we did, which was not attending the class and thinking that we can just use the notes from other people. So make sure you attend the class regularly and not use your friend's notes or anything. Mistake number 6 that a lot of students do is going to the ocean for a swim. Now, if you haven't noticed, Australia is a big island. Even if you went to one beach every day, it'll take about 20 years for you to finish visiting all the beaches. And Australia does have amazing beaches too. Very often, international students go to the beach and see the Australians having a swim and think it is safe. What they don't understand is Australia has a very strong swimming culture. Kids as young as 6 months old are thrown into water and learn how to float. You will see 5-year-old, 6-year-old kids who are good swimmers in a pool, and by the time they're about 10, they are good to be swimming in the beach. Saying this, a lot of students think that it is safe to swim in the beach, but there are a lot of undertows, current and rip in the water, which will drag you into the sea and drown you if you're not a good swimmer. So don't make the mistake of going into the water without knowing how to swim. There is a show called Bondi Rescue, and most of the time it's international students who are getting rescued because they don't know how to swim and they just see the people swimming in the water and jump in. Always speak to the local people to find where's a good spot to go swimming as a beginner. And if you really like getting into the water, make sure you enroll yourself into a swimming class so that you learn how to swim. That will definitely save your life. I hope this video was helpful for you. These are the things that I have learned when I was a student years ago. And I'm just sharing it with you guys so that you don't make the same mistakes that I have done. And I've made some of these mistakes from this list. Anyway, further down the line, I'll make a video on the various cultural difference between India and Australia. And that will help you to assimilate into the Australian culture easier. Hopefully that will be helpful for you too. If you like this video, click on the like button and share it with one of your friends who you think this video will be helpful. Until we see you in the next video, live curiously. See you in the next one. Yes, it might take a bit longer than what some students often